Mobility has always been more than movement. It has fueled freedom, forged connections, powered commerce, and driven progress throughout history. Moving Minds is a series about the people behind the systems, the visionaries, experts, and builders shaping the future of how we move. These are voices that often remain within specialist circles, yet their decisions quietly shape the systems we all depend on. Our mission is simple: to bring their stories, insights, and experiences to the wider mobility industry, giving stage to the thinking and decisions that will define the future of mobility.
We sit together with those that are leading the charge, the people who not only envision what's next, but actually they're really building it. And I'm very excited to sit here together today with Hemanth from May Mobility. He is indeed one of those people, one of the key voices you don't want to miss. He is definitely shaping and pushing the landscape of mobility even further. So stay tuned. I'm really excited about this episode, and I would kindly ask you, Hemanth, why don't you say a few words about yourself, and then we jump into the questions.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Thank you so much, Giuseppe, and thank you, Upstream, for having me. So a little bit about myself. I currently lead cybersecurity and compliance at May Mobility. We are a startup that's focused on autonomous vehicle transportation and technology. And I've had the pleasure of working with Upstream the past few years in regarding to our partnership. So thank you again for all you guys do for Upstream, for May Mobility specifically. Before coming to May, I used to work in cybersecurity. I used to work at Google as well as Alex Partners, which is a consulting firm helping with cybersecurity related tasks, as well as threat intelligence. So really, really happy to be here. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to our interview.
Yeah, we are really honored to have you. And again, I mean, the format of this format is really to know the people behind the scenes, what is driving them, how they did get to the position that they're currently in. And that leads me into the first question I would have for you. So let's look at the background on the history. You mentioned a few steps in your career, but what was it that first drew you at all into the world of mobility or automotive, and how did you end up in the current role with May Mobility?
No, for sure. And it's funny you say that because everybody in Michigan, either you're working in automotive, you're working in insurance, mortgage, or pizza. That's what Michigan is, and the Metro Detroit area. So born and raised in Michigan, I've always been fascinated by how technology can really redefine how people move, right? So my journey started in cybersecurity, but I quickly realized that connected and autonomous vehicles was where the future was. And that's where innovation and safety infrastructure really intersected most. And so joining May Mobility really gave me the opportunity to help build in the systems that power autonomous transportation, ensuring not just that the vehicles are moving safely, but also at the end of the day, the data and the infrastructure behind them are secure. So it really brings to me the joy of working with a self-driving car, right? Especially Metro Detroit area and Ann Arbor area where we're headquartered. That's where the heart and soul of autonomous vehicle technology and transportation is being built. So I think the cybersecurity part has really been really critical, because if you think about it, a vehicle on four wheels is driving around. It's like a computer on four wheels driving around. And so every single responsibility from a cybersecurity side is to ensure that passengers are safe, the vehicle is safe, and the company is safe, right? It's the three pillars that make part of what an autonomous vehicle is for any sort of transportation need.
Yeah, and I mean, imagining just a few years back, there was this thing of connected vehicles, so the case as it was called, and man, I mean, you are really at the forefront with autonomous vehicles driving on the street. That must be really, really exciting. And my next question is, what is it about your work then specifically with the autonomous cars that gives you a sense of purpose or lasting impact?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the idea is that the work that we do today really sets the foundation for public trust in autonomy. If people don't face or don't feel safe or even secure, the adoption slows down. And so it's really important on our side, or even my side, to help bridge that gap between cutting edge technology and public confidence. And specifically really deeply rewarding. We've seen the press cover different incidents, right, when it comes down to an autonomous vehicle. But believe it or not, there's more incidents with the human driver, right, than actually autonomous vehicles. And it's the public's misconception of, autonomous vehicles might not be safe. But realistically, at the end of the day, with the technology and where we are moving as a world into the next generation of technology and innovation, this is just a perfect time for that to happen. And so safety I've talked about too, cybersecurity and safety come hand in hand, right? They complement each other. And so having cybersecurity really blend into that purpose of making sustainable change and impact is going to be really critical.
No, definitely. And when you look at your journey and even the very advanced things that you guys do, is there anything that related to your job that you would say most people, even in the industry, would be even surprised to learn?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the misconception here is that people believe cybersecurity at the end of the day is somebody in a dark room with a hood on hacking away, right? But that's not the case, right? And I think a lot of people often think that vehicle security is just about protecting the car itself. But in reality, it's about protecting the entire ecosystem, the cloud, the data pipelines, the networks, and even the AI decision-making models. Because a vulnerability in one area can also really cascade across the system. And that's where cybersecurity really plays a role, is to ensure that we have the security by design processes implemented within a company, most importantly, in the vehicle itself. I think of one other thing that's really important is, protecting the vehicle really impacts protecting the entire infrastructure and ecosystem, right? Because if an attacker does make their way in, everything is interconnected. And so protecting at large the entire backbone of a company really impacts protecting the vehicle at the end of the day.
Yeah, it sounds like, the saying thinking out of the box here really applies because it's really outside of the box. You
Right.
cannot really be protected unless you understand end to end into the entire, third-party connectivity and supply chain
Right.
that is impacting how the products kind of operate, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you're looking at system bills and materials or even Fleet API, right? All those are just components of the entire spectrum of the ingredients of why we need to protect our vehicle and our product at the end of the
Mm,
day. And you mentioned third-party risk, right? Third party is going to be really important, especially as different parts are put into a vehicle. It's important to monitor the risk level of every single taking a look and making sure that we are maintaining a risk level and residual level of different parts inside the vehicle.
mm. Would you say that, in your perspective, this is the most misunderstood challenge in mobility today? Is that the ecosystem, the complexity of the ecosystem in which the operation happens?
Yeah, that cybersecurity and safety are separate, right? They are two sides of the same coin. A system can be safe by design, but it's not secure. That safety can be compromised instantly by a cyber event. And so I think that's really important here, especially when you're putting mobility together on the road with transportation. Both sides of the coin have to be protected because they
Mm,
go hand in hand.
mm.
Right. And it
Do,
also comes down to, the adherence of ISO 21434, the safety, having a CSMS in place where, obviously upstream comes into place. So I think one of those bigger topics going forward is the protection of the passenger, protection of the software, and mitigating vulnerabilities.
I'm wondering if we look at today's reality, do you think there are some relevant, important, yet undervalued drivers that persist or exist in our industry today?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there are some, I guess, specific motives and drivers here, right? I think data privacy and governance. Everyone talks about innovation and AI, but there's actually a few folks that talk about how we responsibly manage and secure the data that really fuels these systems. Because I think ethical and privacy-focused design will really be a major differentiator moving forward. UL 4600, for example, from an autonomous vehicle standpoint, ISO 42001. ISO 42001 will also play a big role, especially with AI governance. But all that stems down to the data privacy, right? Principle of least privilege, for example, when it comes down to who can make updates to a vehicle from an autonomous vehicle standpoint, and who specifically would have the ability to merge specific code and merge requests inside a repository. So that's kind of where I think it's really important that data privacy and governance of people pushing updates to a vehicle comes into place, and how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely. If we double click on the evolution of your role now, let's say for the last 3 to 5 years, what do you think it will demand from you next? So, what is the comparison between what happened 3 to 5 years ago
Yeah, no,
versus today?
absolutely.
Yeah, versus today.
Yeah. I think one of the things is regulation. Regulation is always changing, internationally, domestically, because a few years ago, cybersecurity mobility was, I guess, more reactive, where it was focused on compliance and risk assessments. Now it's becoming more strategic and integrated with engineering, safety, product design, and really being embedded into every part of the organization, not just from the compliance side, but also from the engineering side. Working with the engineers that are putting our autonomy together, to working with legal as it comes down to some of the risk assessments and the threat analysis risk assessments. I think moving forward, I see my role demanding a deeper understanding of AI governance and predictive threat modeling to stay ahead of a lot of these emerging risks.
Does it mean, as a cyber expert, you need to also be an engineering expert and a
That is
lawyer
correct.
because of because of regulation that you just mentioned?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because if you can understand the legal landscape, you can understand the framework, you can map those controls that are part of that framework to specific, situational to-do items, right, for a vehicle. And the engineering work that has to be defined really comes down from the regulatory bodies.
Yeah, and I understand that's a big struggle for cybersecurity teams anyhow, because regulation is not one regulation. You need to apply regulation even on a state or regional level, right? So there's all the nuances that need to be captured and also responded to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where you need to have your eyes on the road and really making sure that you understand a lot of these legalities and frameworks as they're being published, because if one or two things are missed, it really impacts the entire system at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, looking at all those things, bits and pieces that are moving, and you need to be actually an expert in various domains, not just in one specific area. Um, when we talk specifically about Hemant, what mindset or habit do you rely personally when things get a little bit uncertain or overwhelming? How do you cope with it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think having curiosity and composure, right? I remind myself that uncertainty often means that we're in a new territory, right? And that's exactly where innovation's happening, because it's important, especially, as a security engineer, it's hard to stay calm, right? The threats and vulnerabilities are coming in, but, as engineers, we can't back down. And so we need to stay calm and asking the right questions usually, and that really leads to better outcomes than just rushing to react to a specific situation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, when you think about the impact that you personally had on your journey, doesn't matter if it's big or small, what is it that you're most proud of?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it's really coming down to building security from the ground up, right? At May Mobility, at other startups, working on the threat intelligence side at Google, achieving different compliance milestones at the company, and securing partnerships with other great companies like Upstream when it comes down to our VSOC monitoring. I think having those, really embedding the cybersecurity culture within the organization, right? Having strong phishing resilience, and developing more of a security operations framework that supports kind of our operations here at May Mobility. And I think it's a really good reflection to say where we were a few years ago to where we are now from a security side. But also personally for me, the impact that I've made just in the community when it comes down to cybersecurity, right? Metro Detroit is just huge when it comes down to cybersecurity, not just in automotive, but in every industry. So really bridging that gap of the understanding, especially with artificial intelligence and the new risks that we're seeing in these models, where can we actually elaborate and find those weaknesses to teach people on how to bridge those gaps today instead of tomorrow.
Would friends or, people that you know from your childhood, if they ask what you do today, would they think you do something very mysterious and something that they don't really grasp and understand?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's some people believe that many people in today's world will become a doctor or a lawyer, but believe it or not, cybersecurity engineers are what are protecting the doctors and the lawyers in their work, right? We're protecting the intellectual property, we're protecting the patient's data, all right? And I think this is just a field that's going to evolve even more as we go forward with the next generation of innovation that's being created.
Mm. Yeah, and one of the big drivers, and I think it's since a long time no longer a buzzword. So I have to ask you about AI. And I mean, working for a company that puts autonomous vehicle on the road, AI is definitely something that is mission critical. How does it impact, however, your specific role today? And have AI tools changed your perspective about cybersecurity at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of models out there, right, Giuseppe? There's OpenAI, there's Anthropic, there's Cursor, and a lot of more integrations are coming forward to making sure that our developers are using these tools effectively and safely. And I just believe from the security side that AI is both an opportunity and a challenge, right? It's helping automate these threat detections, the compliance mapping, and even the anomaly analysis, but it's also introducing new vulnerabilities. My perspective has really shifted toward ensuring AI itself is secure and explainable, and it's just not efficient.
Mm. Yeah, I think that we are at the forefront of this incredible shift and advancements with AI, which we are at the beginning, and we just need to figure out how to make it really something that will give us a next accelerator for relying on the technology that we believe it's there to serve us, but as you said, it can be also exploited for bad things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think also having security governance right around the AI model as that's being constructed. Not a lot of companies believe that mindset of having security governance over an AI model because it's one other layer. But believe it or not, it's really as important as having a product. A lot of these technologies that are being developed with artificial intelligence do need to have that security step as they're developing the product. There's access control, there's model poisoning. There's a lot of vulnerabilities
Mm.
that may occur if an AI model is not secure and intact.
Yeah, which for me, the summary is as a guy who is working in security, just continue to be suspicious about what's coming to us next. Um, let's look at the future. If you look ahead, let's say the next 5 years, um, what is it that excites you of working in mobility? I think you already mentioned it, but maybe more specifically, is there anything that really you say this is something that will fundamentally change how we get from A to B?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think connected vehicles and having a connected fleet, right? I think the convergence of AI, autonomy, and even sustainability, right? I think right now in time, Giuseppe, we are on an edge of creating smarter, safer, and cleaner cities. And security is what makes that possible at scale.
Hmm.
Right, there are a lot of bad actors and threat actors that are out there that are trying to really pause operations on a lot of these, goals and milestones for different companies across the world. But it's our job as security professionals to really see what we can do to stop that. And, making sure that working with the engineers, really getting in the weeds. I think it's important as anyone is in the cybersecurity industry to also have that security engineering mindset and working with the engineers directly to ensure that these vulnerabilities and the risk is low. Finding other ways that an attacker would go about attacking the surface, right? My recommendation is to always put yourself in the shoes of an attacker. How could you actually stop an operation, right? Think
Hmm.
of every single way, tackle that every single point, and see what mitigation you can put together.
Yeah, it's the cat and mice game with adversaries having the advantage of operating where they can be invisible, right? So it's really hard to understand what's going on. It's something that is, yeah, I guess, very challenges. So my next question in that regard would be, um, with all the innovation, advancement, and the good reasons why we do all the things that we do for mobility, um, with the threat actors and the bad guys, what is it that really keeps you up at night when you think of the future of mobility?
Yeah, I think it's the pace of innovation versus the pace of security readiness. I think
Mm,
technology is moving fast, which is good, but our frameworks, regulations, and even the public understanding sometimes lag behind. And so our job as security professionals to make sure that we bridge that gap, making sure that a lot of these technologies and deployments are safe and secure,
mm.
especially when it comes later on if there is a security incident. Our question is what we can do today to really stop that risk and security incident in the future.
Hmm. Uh, does that translate in, hey, what we used to say in terms of secure by design? Actually, we need to put an asterisk after it and say as good as we can, because you mentioned it's more of a gap. And will we always be lagging behind with the security? How's your perspective on that?
That's a great question. So I think a lot of the bigger companies that we see today, right, they have a full-fledged security team. I really believe, and this is from experience working at other places and doing a gap analysis on the industry, that small and medium-sized companies are more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Period. Right? They are really focused on the product at the end of the day, especially today. Startups that are trying to raise money for their company might forget about security because they're so focused on the product. And
Mm,
venture capital firms want to see where the money's going, and that's going to be on the product.
mm,
And I think as security professionals, we need to keep a target in making sure that a lot of those products at the end of the day are being implemented by security from the start, especially with the small and medium-sized companies, startups, whatever it may be. Go after the cybersecurity attestations and certifications like the SOC 2, the ISO 27001, because those frameworks are going to keep your program intactful going forward.
So actually, security becomes an enabler to make things become a reality. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I mean, it is an enabler, right? I think every business will understand how important it is to making sure that the company is protected, but also moving securely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have come to the last question. And if you, looking again back on your career and your experience working in mobility, if there would be one thing that you could whisper, a tip or something that you could say in terms of recommendation, why they should enter this industry, what would it be?
Yeah, it's the future, right? And I think it's, stay curious and what I like to say, and multidisciplinary, right? I think the future of mobility isn't just engineering, it's ethics, it's policy, AI, safety, and also at the end of the day, security working together to bridge that gap. I think cybersecurity is not just, as I mentioned before, somebody in a dark room hacking away. It's putting a lot of these concepts of ethics, policy, AI, and safety together, because you'll be working with these stakeholders to really build a resilient system and protect an individual or even a company.
Yeah, and looking at, everyone knows there's a skill gap in the industry, so we need to attract young talents that are willing to go along the path that you have described and help us to protect what's dear to us.
Yeah, no, 20 years ago, cybersecurity was just there, but today is just the perfect time to get your foot in and start protecting.
Well, that's a perfect close to this episode, Hemanth. Thank you so much. This is exactly why we do this format. This is exactly, we want to hear the stories of people that, sometimes they are visible in the specialist groups, but we want obviously to advocate the importance of cybersecurity. And as you said, it's no longer just a matter of a single discipline. It's really a very broad discipline. So everything that you shared, I think, is very valuable. I hope folks enjoy our conversation here. Your vision is exactly what we want to have in terms of the voice that we want to spread. So thank you very much again. And talk to you soon.
Yep, thank you so much.
If today's conversation offered a new perspective on what drives mobility. We'd love for you to follow the series, share it, and tell us your thoughts. You'll find more episodes with the people shaping what's next. One question, one insight, one decision at a time. Until next time, keep moving forward.